thank you all for being here and caring about food and caring about food waste. You guys heard from Amanda this morning about the future of food, and we want to talk for a short while about food waste. And we don't want to scare you, and we don't want to guilt you. We just want to talk about solutions. So you want to?
So up to 40% of food is wasted every year in this country, which is astonishing, right?
$214 billion a year. Yay! No.
And with that is all the land, all the energy, all the water that's used to grow that food. So about 21% of land used to grow food ends up in the food that is grown in that land ends up going to landfill.
But today we really want to talk about solutions, because raise your hand if you cook. Yeah, I'm thinking there are some people who actually cook in this room. So for those of us who actually cook, there are some amazing solutions. And one of the biggest ones is being aware as you're buying, and being aware as you're storing, and being aware as you're like, how do I reuse these items? And that's a lot of what Save the Food is about. If you want to watch more of that video, like that was a little short version, you can go to YouTube, Fridge Raid, Save the Food, or savethefood.org. And then at savethefood.org, there's a bunch of other tools. You want to share?
Sure. So we have a new tool called Meal Prep Mate. For those of you who have busy schedules or often on the go, it's a great way to figure out how you can effectively shop for a week's worth of meals at a time, how to plan your meals, how to cook food and have leftovers throughout the week that keep you excited about the food that you've cooked, and don't get bored, don't end up throwing away a lot of food. We all know when you buy kale, you have got the best of intentions, and then at the end of the week, you end up with wilted kale. So Meal Prep Mate is a great way to use new foods, try out new recipes, but make sure that you're not getting bored of things, and make sure that things aren't going to waste.
And on the website, there's also a lot of ways to reuse. Like, let's say you have cilantro, and you have to buy that big bunch of cilantro for that one tiny pinch of cilantro. What do you do with the rest of the cilantro? That's what we're trying to, exactly, smart woman. That's what we're trying to get people to think about. And you guys are the biggest influencers because you're the ones who are sharing all of this stuff with the world. So if you can start to think about that, if each one of you were to blog, do one blog about reusing food, it would be a huge thing for the planet. Like, you guys have a lot of power in this room at this moment.
And the great news is that consumer-oriented waste, the food waste that comes from consumers, is the largest single share. So you might think it's from farms, you might think it's happening at the food manufacturing facilities, but it's actually the stuff that we generate, which means that changing that comes from us.
Most of us waste 40% of the food that we buy. Imagine that. Like, imagine how much money you could save if you stopped doing that. And I'm going to actually share with you one of my secrets that, like, I don't share with anybody. And it started when when I made baby food. And I got one of these. Does anyone know what this is? Right? This is what you store baby food in when you, well, I never stopped using it. And now when this morning actually, I had to pop some stuff out of this. I had a couple of things of chicken soup. I had a couple things of rainbow carrots and a couple of things of pasta. And the great thing about that is they're little single servings. Because raise your hand if you've gone into your freezer and it's like this big hunk of something, but you only want one serving of it, right? It's an easy way to just pop it in, pop it out. You have one serving. I can make my daughter dinner. I can make my husband and I dinner super fast, super easy. Now, that's something I just made up myself as a way of making it super easy to use my leftovers. And for me, as a working mama, The freezer is my best friend. If you guys leave with nothing from today in this little chat, use your freezer, because things go bad in your fridge, they don't go bad in your freezer. And if you think about it and really use it in a smart way, in like this single serving way, I can reuse that soup to be something else. I can reuse the little bit of quinoa becomes quinoa cakes. There are these really creative ways we can think, and you guys are the smart ones. You guys are actual chefs. You guys are cooking in your kitchens on a regular basis. If you share that with your audiences, it could make a really big, awesome difference. I don't have a robot in my kitchen, as cool as it was to hear about robot farming of fish. That was so cool. I am my own robot. So these are sort of some of the tips that we're suggesting to play with. And you can see more at savethefood.org.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes my husband acts like a robot, but he definitely doesn't act on command. And to Alicia's point, you can definitely store food that you've cooked in her little handy device or in the freezer. You can also put whole ingredients in there. If you're going out of town, you bought a bunch of limes or lemons, you had a party and didn't use them, pop them in there. Avocado, pop it in. Milk, pop it in. You would be surprised, almost everything can be frozen and then reused just as it would have been used once it's unfrozen. A great way to use these is to squeeze the lemon juice before they go bad, and then you've got little lemon cubes if you want to have lemon water or other dishes.
It's like I always pretty much put every loaf of bread in the freezer after a day. But also, like, with my daughter, she doesn't eat her crusts, right? Raise your hand if you have a kid who doesn't eat crusts, right? I will save her crusts, and this is only when I'm cooking for my family, by the way. I don't share this, I don't serve this to anybody else, just to be clear about sanitary stuff. I will chop them up and I will make bread pudding. I will make French toast muffins that I'll then put in the freezer again, so that on a morning when we're rushing out the door, we've all overslept, I throw that little French toast muffin into the microwave for a minute, and then we have breakfast for the day. And it's super delicious. It's French toast. It's healthy. It has protein. And it's reused.
And I'm glad you brought up sanitary standards, because how many of us have had something that is past its expiration date or nearly past its expiration date, and it looks fine to you and it smells fine to you, but you're worried, certainly if you're serving it to someone or even just eating it yourself, that that date is something to worry about. Well, we have a secret for you. Those dates really don't mean much at all. And we hope you can help us get the word out that date labels are really arbitrary. They were introduced by food manufacturers to try to sell more food.
Money, money, money.
And we find that the best rule of thumb is your nose and your taste buds. If something smells good to you, if something tastes fine to you, it probably hasn't gone off and it's fine to use. Maybe not. Maybe you won't use it as the signature part of your dinner party, but you can use it if it's milk, you can use it in pancakes. If it's yogurt, you can use it in a smoothie. Same thing with berries that are just a wee bit past their prime, taste fine in smoothies. So definitely don't put too much stock in the date labels.
And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll take one question if anybody has, is I feel like in our grandma's time, there was a sense of pride of using everything, right? There was pride in, I used the very last drop.
And necessity.
And then we got into this culture that we're in now where we're like, isn't it awesome that there's enough of everything? Well, my friends, there is not, right? We know that now, climate-wise and sort of environmentally, and then on a personal level. There is enough if we share it. And in this moment, let's go back to how do we save? How do we take pride in, oh, I used the last drop of that. Isn't it cool how creative I got with that solution?
Yes, some of the best foods out there throughout the world are dishes that are actually repurposed leftovers, from Italy to France. I mean, I think French toast is actually called forgotten bread in French, because the idea was you would take the baguette the next day that didn't get eaten the night before and repurpose it for breakfast. So it is not by any means sacrificing taste to repurpose and use food to the fullest. Actually, what you're doing is getting the most culinary value out of it.
Yay. Any questions? All right. Oh, wait, one in the back. Yes.
I met you a few years ago on set, but you had a reusable container then. And you bring it on set when you're with, it was, I think, Down Dog or some pilots, yoga, something. We all wear yoga pants. But my question is, obviously, you know, when you come to being someone who reuses and whatnot, there's a change that takes place. So what was the biggest challenge that you overcame in maybe prior to being educated on this in order to get to where you are today?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge is that our society tells us more is better. For me, that is the biggest challenge, and that there's always a new thing that we're supposed to want and buy. So for me, it's on a daily basis bringing it back to, I don't need more stuff, I don't need more food, I can shop my refrigerator. And that there's joy in that creativity. There's joy in what's in the house that I can make something I've never made before. How do I do this differently this time so that my family isn't bored with the same meal every time? So that's for me, is letting go of more is best. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for caring.
And make sure you check out our booth, the Ad Council, and you can get non-toxic bamboo spatula. Thanks, everyone.